welcome to our little stream, our little community. I want to thank you a lot for being here. It's really truly an honor. Looking through your achievements, it's just very awesome to have the opportunity to talk to you. I saw that you won YC 15 back in the day. Was that true? Or you participated in it?
I don't think so.
I see. Okay.
You mean like Yale or?
No. Okay. For some reason, I saw Y Combinator on one of the interviews that I was reading, and maybe I might have misread. But in any case, no stress. Yeah. I guess we can just start right off, right? If that's okay with you.
Sure. So what's the format? So are we live on a live stream right now?
Correct. We're on a live stream right now. That's okay?
Yeah. There you go.
And then basically I sent you the questions, so I'm not going to ask you anything pretty much outside of that.
Okay. I didn't look at the questions, but I'm sure that they're okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're pretty straightforward. I guess just to give a high level overview of the format, I think we'll just have a few opening questions regarding your background and what kind of inspired you to create Axie Infinity, and then maybe some other questions about how maybe more questions related to the game and the ecosystem and what excites you about both the ecosystem, the game, and cryptocurrency in general. And then we can end it with just some tokens of advice or words of advice that you think would be useful for folks. So that's pretty much the general format, because a lot of our audience is actually, they're pretty much in the age of 18 to 30 years old, so they're all observing this phenomena unfold, and they're all very, let's just say, hungry to make sure that they can make the most of this opportunity. I definitely want them to leave the stream with that kind of mentality. So, I know you're an avid gamer. I saw, hopefully I don't get this wrong, but I saw that you played World of Warcraft earlier on, and then yeah. So could you describe maybe your favorite gaming moment in general, or game in general?
Yeah. So I grew up playing games. The first thing that I ever did on the internet was play StarCraft on BattleNet, I believe. So yeah, as a kid, I was really into Blizzard games, StarCraft, Diablo 2 in particular, and then I moved on to World of Warcraft. I played in the beta. I was 13 years old, but in a top horde guild, and it was just amazing. That's kind of the first time I got a taste of competitive gaming, I guess. I met a lot of friends. I was raised by my guild members in many ways, right? Because I was 13. Most people who play WoW, right, at that level, right, they're maybe in their 20s at least. So yeah, I learned a lot. So I think raiding WoW vanilla, doing Molten Core, Blackened Lair, those are some of my favorite gaming memories of all time, especially being in a group that was kind of making server firsts, in some cases US horde firsts. That was just something incredibly special to be a part of. So
what guild were you in? Just curious, because I know Vodka, but that's the only one I know. Yeah.
I was in a guild called Overrated.
Interesting. So
it's kind of an infamous guild. We actually got banned for basically dropping. We found a glitch where you could drop through the floor to Cthulhu and Encourage and basically skip all the trash. So we got banned for that.
Yeah, I guess I was one of the suckers that came into Classic WoW revamp, right? So I was all those raids that you're describing, and I remember I guess it was only a year and a half ago, Skolo farming and stuff like this. It was interesting. That's interesting. So it seems like WoW was a pretty big part of your life, at least early on. Did that maybe class design have any influence to how you thought about? Maybe your view on Axie, or not really? Because I
think all. So first of all, I wanna clarify, right? The kind of stuff that I do within Axie, right? Sure. So I do a lot of kind of community empowerment, communication, making sure everyone understands our vision, incentive alignment, some economic design. I don't do too much game design at all. Right, there's a separate team whose kind of sole function it is. I have done some research, which I've passed to that team on class design and things like that. So yeah, WoW is a great system to look at. But yeah, there are definitely, I think generally, right, within Axie, right, you have these archetypes, right, beasts are kind of I don't know, similar to maybe rogues.
Yeah, sure.
Right, and reptiles are kind of brawlers, right? Plants are more healing tanks. Reptiles are a little bit more brawler, but they're also a little bit armor tanks, right?
Sure.
So yeah, definitely all games, right, that have ever come have kind of gotten inspired our game designers a lot when they come up with the Axie archetypes, and I think we're going to even see more of that, more clearly defined archetypes in Battles V2. That's one of the things that they really stressed during that development.
So you said something that really caught my attention about incentive alignment. right? And I think like that's a really interesting topic to maybe parse through. If you maybe could speak to that a little bit more in terms of, could you provide any maybe specifics as like, so first of all, like I'm an idiot. Like what does incentive alignment mean?
Yeah, so the basic idea, right, is that everyone in our ecosystem, all of our players, all the people who are in the Axie community, there are benefits that for Axie growing and Axie becoming better, becoming a stronger community, right? So, right, like 95% of all in-game spend goes to the player base, right? These are peer-to-peer transactions, right? Sky Mavis and the Axis holders, which Sky Mavis is only one, right? They take a 4.25% marketplace fee plus some of the breeding. You can think of Axie as a digital economy, right? If you think about Axie as a digital economy, compared to a traditional game where the tax rates are 100% and the game developer will ban you and hunt you down if you try and, right, like bypass those taxes. In Axie, right, like the game developers, Sky Mavis and the community, they both want to grow the player economy as large as possible. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about alignment.
That's interesting. I guess, like, do you feel like there are other games right now that, I mean, obviously they're looking at Axie very closely, but do you feel like anyone's emulating Axie, at least somewhere like, where you consider them like, oh wow, we should maybe look at what they're doing or pay closer attention, or are you just first in class?
Yeah, I think that the rise of Axie has been similar to something where, like, the rise of Angry Birds or Clash of Clans, where it's basically creating a new game genre. Others will take note.
So,
but yeah.
So right now, basically, it's too early of the landscape is still developing, so it's kind of early to see any kind of. Okay, that makes sense.
If you try and create a game like Axie, the people that you're going to attract to the ecosystem are the people who are looking for the next Axie. They're not going to be necessarily like long-term thinkers. Long-term thinking is one of the pillars of the Axie community, right? It's only by thinking long-term and being very disciplined and, yeah, in many ways, like not about money, not being greedy. This only way that you can create a strong and solid community. And obviously, while everyone is a bit of both in life, missionary and mercenary, I think the Axie community has this really great balance of having long-term thinkers, these missionaries who are at the core of the community.
That's well put. Mercenary versus missionary, dude. That's very cool. I'm definitely gonna remember that. I guess, like, so you also struck a chord with me just now about long-term thinking, right? And this is something that I really try to invoke and cultivate in our audience's minds, is that basically, you know, especially because the majority of them are looking for scholarships, and I'm trying to basically encourage them to think about, like, scholarship is not the end goal necessarily. It's like what you do with the scholarship, right? Because it could be a fleeting kind of experience, or it could be persistent and can really affect your life in profound ways, in my opinion, based on my enthusiasm and conviction of the game. But like, for a while, you guys were working silently. I mean, not silently, but like less than 10,000 daily active users, and now it's obviously many orders of magnitude more as of recent, right? I mean, this question is mainly for me. Like, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur in deep tech, right? My background is basically getting my PhD in biomedical engineering, and we're looking to start a company one day, and we're trying to make like a therapeutics company one day. And so this is obviously a very, very deep bet, and I'm just like wondering.
This is the next frontier, by the way, right? People who make their money in crypto, they're going to be like funding like biomedical research and like longevity research, I'm sure, right? Because it's like, what's the point of having crypto wealth if you die eventually?
Right. So that's cool that you mentioned that. That's actually really cool that you mentioned that. I would like to maybe hear more about, because this is the first time I'm hearing about it. And what you're saying, in hindsight makes sense, right? I would imagine that goes the same for like sustainability, right? Like people want to make sure that environmental like impact is reduced, so that way we can basically stay here longer as well, right? For the sake of crypto. But I guess like my returning back to my original question, right? Which is just like, when you didn't see the final result, and I feel like it's still unfolding now, right? But like, how did you stay convicted in your long-term thinking when basically there weren't obvious signs that this was working other than your own conviction? Does that question make sense?
So what keeps us working on Axie other than our own conviction?
So maybe another way to put it is like, when you don't have early signs of success, like, and right now obviously there is, it's a clear indicator that, this is the growth trajectory. But when you're working silently, like for example, I'm committing to like, 4 more years of research that might transpire into something amazing, but it could be not. And obviously I have the faith in the group I'm working with to basically make sure our values are aligned, to make sure that we're working towards a goal. And I guess like for you personally, how did you kind of persevere through maybe the times where it wasn't so clear, maybe a little bit actually murky, that like, so.
Makes sense. Yeah. We get, right. Axie, we were grinding throughout a bear market for a long time. But we always saw from the passion of the community that this was a mission that could change the world. So even though we didn't have, traditional metrics that might indicate product market fit, it's more about, right, like, do you have like a core group of users that really love what you're doing? So it's like, okay, and what are these people like? Are there more of them out there in the world? Like, how can you find more of them, right? And so it was always like, okay, people really love what we're doing when they find out about it. But we, it was always like, we need the next step. There's always the next thing to build where that will unlock a new group of users, right? So it's like every single feature that we released unlocked a new group, a new set of users that just kept the train kind of going, right? So we had validation in many ways, even though we weren't at, right, like exponential growth, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think we really had conviction, right? I mean, it was a bear market for everyone in crypto. And we also knew that, right, like crypto is a very cyclical market. It has gone through many life and death cycles, right? Like kind of accelerated adoption and then crash and then a resurrection, right? It kind of happens on this 3 to 4 year cadence. It's kind of like, it's almost like a chemical reaction or a heartbeat. It mirrors nature in many ways. Yeah, I think we and the community, we had a lot of faith. Did we think that it would happen this soon or in this way? Not really, but I think when you give people freedom and when you build something that inspires people, the emergent behaviors are just amazing. They cannot really be projected, right? But you can think, okay, like if we give more freedom to gamers, like something good is going to happen, right? That's like one kind of base assumption that we've always had, right? We're people who value freedom, who value economic freedom. We believe in free markets and economic freedom and digital property rights. And in every system in the world, when you give these types of things to people, interesting new behaviors emerge. So we thought, like this also makes sense for gamers. So I think it's also about first principles thinking, right? If you can kind of, right, like think about inevitable futures and what are the things that you can do to get to those inevitable futures, right? As long as they're within like the physical laws of the universe, right? And it's like you can do like abstract design thinking, then I think you can kind of say, okay, like this is how the positive flywheel will take effect, right? Yeah, it's kind of like right? It's like this design thinking maybe, or first principles thinking, where you're creating this, right? You're creating this adoption engine, right? And you think in advance, like okay, how are people going to get interested about this? Are they going to find out about it? What are they going to do? Those are things that you can kind of build on the fly, especially as you get feedback from a core group of users. I think also, right, like it is a little bit difficult what you're talking about going into doing, where you go into like hibernation for 4 years and build, and then you hope after the end of 4 years that you build something that consumers or users, etc., are gonna be interested in. We didn't really do it that way, to be honest, right? Like we built in the open alongside our community. This is, right, not a luxury that some products have.
Yeah, so what I got from that answer was a few things, but I want to maybe emphasize a few points that I think really resonate with our community, right? Is that like your value set was very kind of rigorous in the sense that you thought deeply about what mission you wanted to accomplish. And it sounds like player first, economic freedom, these are the things that were almost uncompromised, right? And so when you couple that with first principle thinking and you couple that with the faith in your team, I mean, it's hard to bet the other direction, right? Is what it sounds like. It sounds like the vector was only pointing towards one way, because I guess you worked so hard to make sure that your mission statement was always something that you were returning to and empowering the community to do what they wanted to do. And like what you said, that feedback you got from early users, it sounds like you guys were also very goal oriented. So when you're rolling out these new features and people respond in a certain way, so there is a good feedback loop there to allow that kind of first principle thinking to unfold while also returning to your mission statement. So I think that's a beautiful example of what it means to be a deep tech company, right? And actually elicit a paradigm shift in traditional markets. So I say this as a true fan. Like it's really inspiring to see the way you guys navigate, from ecosystem decisions to game design decisions to the decisions that you guys are making about community, and how you pretty much want the community to be the main drivers of distributing knowledge, promoting the game, etc. So I guess like that might lead me to my next question. You know, you've been a champion of community within the Axie ecosystem. You know, pretty much. I guess that's what your main role is. But you also mentioned that it's important for Axie to have exceptional leaders, right? So I want to know like what you mean by that. Like, what does it mean to be an exceptional leader within the Axie affinity community?
So leadership is a service, right? Like leaders have a lot of responsibility. They are beholden to the people that they lead. It is not something that is taken, right? It's something that's granted through legitimacy. So yeah, that's kind of my philosophy on leadership. So, right, leaders don't appoint themselves. Leaders are given power and influence by building up trust and by leading through example, right? Some people, they see me as a leader within the Axie community. But I don't think that my role is to be a leader of the Axie community. That is not like my mandate from Sky Mavis, right? Because being a leader cannot be mandated. It has to be something that is granted by the governed or the people who are being led. So if people see me as a leader, then that might make me a leader. But it's not something that I don't say that I am a leader, if that makes sense. So it's that mentality, right? And leaders have to naturally rise up from the community. I can, right, give them advice and tell them, right, like how I've found, what strategies I've found to be effective in dealing with kind of more decentralized, more distributed communities and volunteers. So yeah, I think right, like, well, community is the only scalable way to do growth for a crypto protocol at the moment. Community is a distribution channel. If you look at like traditional startup growth manuals and stuff like that, right, there are like around 20 different distribution strategies. But what I found interesting is that, yeah, community is the only distribution strategy that amplifies all other channels, right? So if you have an amazing community, that's going to boost your PR, it's going to boost, right, like your content marketing, and it's going to boost, right, like your PR stunts, things like that, right? So so community is the only one that amplifies all other distribution channels, and it makes a lot of sense for a crypto protocol. So it's like community is growth, in my opinion, for crypto. So yeah, it's really, really important to think hard about it. But it's also something that cannot be forced, right? Like it is about, if somebody copied everything that Axie did to a T, you kind of have to go back in time to do that, if that makes sense, right? Because part of it is the timing, part of it is, that we built. You need to be small before you can be big. If you become big before you're small, then there are a lot of issues that can happen, in my opinion. So we have that precious 2 years or 2 to almost 3 years of incubation where, yeah, I think the culture of the community really became ossified as being positive, high energy, long-term thinking. And then everyone who came into the community after that, regardless of whether they are that by nature, they understand that that's part of the ethos of what we're doing. And it can turn, if someone comes more as a short-term thinker, but they see, right, that kind of thinking can be infectious. It can be something that improves people. I think people do have the capacity to change, especially when they surround themselves by the right type of people.
So you kept on saying like, the word community just emphasized over and over again, and I just like can't help to reflect my nostalgia back in my early WoW days. I mean, I wasn't like anything like you, but like when we were playing like BC, for example, I mean, that's all there was community. You know what I'm saying? There was like the game didn't have built-in infrastructure for us to have, like, for example, Raid Finder or like Dungeon. Like it was all, everyone knew each other, and I was, as time has gone on, I feel like I've always really missed that feeling. And it might be because I was also 13 at the time, and I was like, this shaped my worldview and my life, that community in these games mattered. But it wasn't until I came here that I was like, wow, I mean, this has reinvigorated my faith in gaming communities in general. So again, like what you guys have done with regard to jumpstarting the community to basically be the drivers of your growth, I mean, it's amazing. So I know we have just a few moments left, so I guess we can maybe end with the closing remarks here. So I guess to me, it's very clear that you guys are on the right track, and that you guys are very conscientious and deliberate with your decision making, keeping a close temperature to kind of all aspects of community growth, gameplay, ecosystem with regard to DEX and AXS staking and all these kind of design decisions that you guys have implemented. But like, what would you give, I guess, like 20-year-old Jeffrey like advice for as he's seeing this phenomenon unfold? Like, yeah, so I mean, there's just so much going on with like software development kits coming out a year from now or 2 years from now, whenever the timeline, or like even like in content creation. So yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, it was really.
So I guess my question is, what would you give, like maybe if you saw a younger version of yourself today, and it was young Jeff looking at Axie being explosive the way it is, what kind of advice would you might give your younger self? Like, and when you're seeing kind of all this opportunity oozing out of the cup, essentially.
I would say to observe, to become a part of the community, to see where you can add value. What are your skills that you can add, that you can kind of throw into the mix? I think like the cool thing about Axie is there's good things for different people depending on their skills and abilities. And the cool thing, right, is you don't have to be a technical person to come in and contribute to the Axie community. I think that's one of the core principles that we built Axie thinking about is, anyone should be able to come in and add value to this network, right? When you think about games as a network, right, like your whole kind of thinking, I think, shifts. So yeah, I think it's really, Axie is a system where people who want to turn into, who want to better themselves and want to make an impact, they can come in and start doing it.
That's a beautiful answer. And I guess like maybe the last question, if you have time, is
Sure.
like the crypto space in general is just very exciting. So I just want to know like what projects maybe outside of Axie, or maybe it can be within Axie, like excite you and just make you take a little bit and pique your interest, I would say,
Well, I love Ethereum.
Yeah.
So
so today was a big day.
Yeah, so I was happy about the London upgrade. Yeah, I mean, I like Aave, I like Sushi, right? Like, I don't know, decentralized finance is really interesting to me. So yeah, Aave, Sushi. I mean, there's some others, right? I've made like quite a bit of investments in the space. So yeah, I'm also like I'm excited about upcoming like NFT games. I think especially ones that have been also building like for a long time, that are starting to kind of make moves now. So
Excellent.
I'm also interested in like products that can really systematize community coordination around all the different types of work, right? So it's like, for example, I believe that many protocols are going to start rolling out creator funds, but then it's like, how do you actually reward people for the work that they do within the ecosystem that can't be quantified in an objective manner? It's quite difficult. It's even hard. It's even hard to say, right? So stuff like that is going to be really important,
especially like at the onset, because there's just no data points, right? To actually, I mean, that's an incredible point. I guess like, I came from DeFi, so all those, decentral, like all the apps that you're referring to, Aave, Sushi. I mean, this is something that basically opened the door for me in terms of Axie, and I just wish I had found out about it sooner, because it just checks all the boxes for me. Like, I'm an avid gamer, I'm an avid student of crypto, so it's a match made in heaven for me. So I'm glad that you guys are working so hard to create the community and game that we enjoy very much. So
yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. We're not perfect. The community isn't perfect. The space is far from perfect. So but we need to take a long-term view, even when things are like the thing that I worried about and that I don't like is when people, right, like who are long-term thinkers, they start to become short-term thinkers, like because we've had a couple of good months. So like, if there's one message that I want to get across, is that I want people to keep thinking like it was last year, even though things are much different for you, your families maybe, right? Like your life might have been changed by Axie, but we need to stay hungry, and we can't let numbers we can't let numbers change who we are and how we think, and we can't start to get jealous of each other. These are all things that can destroy us from within. At this point, like we have a lot of momentum, and the only thing that can kind of kill us is ourselves, I think. So I think we need to be really, really, really careful and thoughtful, and we need to lift each other up. We also need to have empathy for other communities, other projects, and people within our community. We have people from all different backgrounds in our community now, and a lot of people who are new to the ecosystem. So everyone, right, everyone has a different life, and I think we need to also be cognizant of that.
I mean, I'm so ecstatic, because literally every word that you said is what we try to say in this stream, right? Like staying hungry, being long-term, being goal-oriented. It's just beautiful to hear you say it, because I know a lot of the folks here look up to you. So I'm really thankful that you're able to reiterate our community's core values. So it's awesome to hear that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it was really fun to chat, and
Yeah.
I would love to come on again.
Sure.
I really like, I always feel like when I do interviews with people from the community, they're kind of a little bit special because, right, you kind of understand what we're trying to do, if that makes sense. So,
All right. Well, I don't mean to hold you up any longer, sir. So please, I really appreciate your time, and please let's connect sometime soon. This is really great. You got a lot of great advice and insight that we got from this opportunity. So thank you again.
awesome. Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Okay. Talk to you soon. Dude, what did he say? What did he say, guys? Be hungry? Huh? Be long-term thinking? Be goal-oriented, be compassionate, be empathetic, be supportive. Dude, this is from the GOAT himself. Do you understand that? Like, Mystic is not bullshitting you, dude. You guys gotta be hungry. What did he say about when he would talk to himself, 10 years ago or whatever, when he was 20 years old? He said, fucking get your skills in order, dude. You don't have to be technical. There's a space for anyone who's hungry, man. The opportunity is literally limitless. Don't be your own worst enemy. Just go ham, dude. Go, 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 go. But there's also one thing he touched on that I need to focus on a little bit more within here, okay? Unfortunately the time was short, but it's this concept called first principles thinking. You can't just go like an animalistic beast and just start swinging your fists anywhere, right? When a fighter fights, they train basically with proper technique. They probably don't even hit a person until they know exactly how to throw their arms, how to aim, how to maneuver. So this is what first principle thinking is about, guys, is being armed with knowledge and rigorous thinking that allows you to synthesize the information around you to come to a unique worldview and perspective that you can offer up. And this is something that's cultivated over a long period of time. It's not something that you can just come to. So it's just beautiful to hear him say those same things that we literally preach on this, not preach, but just encourage on this channel. Because now, more than ever, I realize like I'm in the right place. We're all in the right place.